If you've ever wondered what happens to old state and local records and documents, here's your answer. They wind up in the Washington State Archives. Your State Archives is one of the several divisions within the Office of the Secretary of State. State Archivist Jerry Hanfield says the Archives building has an interesting history in itself.
The first thing that is noticeable about this building is that you can't see this building from the street. When you're walking down Capitol, you can't see the building, all you see is trees. And people say, oh, I've been by there 100 times, I don't even know where the Archives is. Well, the Archives is 3 stories underground. It was built 3 stories underground because in 1962 and 1963, when the United States was fearful of an attack from the Soviet Union, nuclear missiles, the legislature built a bomb shelter. And this building that we're in is a bomb shelter for a nuclear bomb. Nuclear bomb hits the Capitol, the crater would only extend over to Capitol, and every of the 510 officials, they'd be safe downstairs, protected. They had all kinds of supplies to last a couple weeks. And above the bomb shelter level, they stored records. And that's the genesis and the beginning and the origin of the State Archives building that we're in.
The State Archives has 171,819 cubic feet, which is approximately over 429 million documents in the State Archives building in Olympia and its regional archives. Its regional archives are in Bellevue, Bellingham, Ellensburg, and Cheney.
In the archives, we have everything from A to Z, from soup to nuts, from the sheep to horses, from bees to zebras. You name it, we have something for everybody. And that's because every function in a state has some either oversight, connection to, or relation to local, city, or state government. And if there's any connections to those areas, we will have records relating to the function of those areas. That means whether it's swimming pools, toxic waste, trees, salmon, bridges, highways, welfare, you name it, you can find it here. And some of the material we have here is exceptionally important. We have the records of all 3 branches of government, the judiciary, the legislature, all the laws passed by the legislature, all the Supreme Court decisions, and all the records of state government, the governor and the executive. They all end up here in one central place so everybody has access to it. It's modeled after the National Archives in Washington, D.C., which has the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. So it's that same model. And it's so important. A democracy cannot function without access to public records and without a central archives that the people can have access to.
The State Archives maintains the state records collections. These collections provide an important account of public government in Washington State, beginning with the Washington Territory and continuing on into the present. It's where Washington's government history is preserved for current and future generations.
The State Archives in every state is important to the people of every state because it is the holder of all the legal and historical records created by government. Created by government, received by government, and maintained by government. In other words, there's not one person in the state of Washington that would not be able to find something about themselves in the records at the State Archives. And that is because every government agency produces records, and they have to keep those records so that they're accessible to the people. A democracy depends on public records. Ever since 1787, the Constitution, the Northwest Ordinance, the Founding Fathers said we must have access to our records. That's why they created a Secretary of State office in every state to keep track of the legal and historical records of the people, to keep them in a central place and make them accessible so everybody has access to the records in a democracy.
Our State Archives also is a treasure trove for genealogists. The records transferred to the State Archives are open to the public for research, thanks to the Public Disclosure Act. Providing access to these records is the top priority of the State Records research staff.
We're open to the public Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and that means anybody can come in and use the records. But first they have to put their materials in a locker. They can only use certain color materials to make copies, and they can take stuff home with them and do whatever they want with them. It's a really simple, easy way to to have access to your records. The best way, though, is that we make them available online.
Opened in 2004, our State Digital Archives is the first of its kind in the world. It has received several awards and accolades for its service and ever-growing collection. Over 100 million digital documents are now found at our digital archives.
We're very proud of the Digital Archives because it's the #1 digital archives in the United States, and it is actually a model for many digital archives in other countries. We've had visitors come here from all over the world to see how we do it, and what we're doing is preserving electronic records. The modern generation, your generation, keeps everything, you like everything electronic. Well, we are converting old records, paper records, to electronic images, and we're making them available. So many people come to the digital archives. We're talking 500,000 people every year compared to 20,000 people that write in or don't or walk in. So it's really a remarkable way for the average American to see what records are important, to see how valuable they are. Some of them are important records in a court case of $5.6 billion. One volume here, one volume like this was a key piece of evidence in a court case that saved the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars. What I don't know about the archives is the value of the materials that are in here. Real value comes in, they might protect your rights. You might be looking for proof that your grandfather was a naturalized citizen, because if he was a naturalized citizen, you get certain rights and obligations. You may be looking for a photograph of a relative who immigrated to Washington 100 years ago. We will have that photograph. You may be looking for a photograph of a judge or an elected official 100 years ago because you want to put a display up in a courtroom. We have those photographs. You may be looking for documentation from family history, the genealogist. You may be looking for directories or censuses that say you were living here then, or you had a license. You signed up, you were in corporation, and you were incorporated only for 2 years, but we will have the records of that corporation for you, if it's important to family history, or whether you're just looking up because it's a similar name or it's in a certain geographic location. It doesn't make any difference to us. We will bring up information that is not confidential. We have some information that is confidential for 75 years, but every year more information is available.
You can visit our state archives online by going to the Secretary of State's website at www.sos.wa.gov. You can also call the state archives at 360-586-1492.